I wanted to start a dog walking business, for example, right? I want to start a dog walking business, but I have absolutely no skills in web design. What I could do is I could network around the room. Can anyone build websites here? Okay, I could find any of these 3 people, and I could say, I want to start a website and ask them how much they would charge, all right? They would send me an invoice of hopefully under £500, and you would, or I would ask myself, you would ask me for that money, okay? So you would say, I need £500, and Ricardo, for example, is going to build a website for me. Now, that's the perfect example where you're using another Kingston University student to get your idea moving. But you can also get the service from external places, okay? So it doesn't have to be a Kingston University student, but ideally it would be. So it's almost like a circular thing, all right? Now, we can talk about it a bit more. We can talk about the business stuff at the end, but I just wanted to introduce it just in case I forgot, all right? So, how do we welcome guests to Kingston University?
Well, I'm really pleased to hear that we've got a range of people here, because I think that always adds a little bit to it. Somebody will always have some certain knowledge about the different steps that I've taken. As a product design student, the stuff that I've learned at university was pretty important. But the most important thing was actually getting involved and doing it. It's very easy to assume when you leave with a degree as well, you tend to think, oh, you know, the world revolves around the thing that I have learned. And as soon as you get out there, you realise that actually you're quite a small part of a much bigger thing, and you need to work with other people. It's always about teamwork. So it's worth looking at this early stage to see if you can find some other potential people to work with. So I had come to university as a mature student. I had failed all my A-levels years ago and didn't go to university when I was 18. So I got a job in a bike shop, and then I worked in the bicycle industry for about 10 years, and I learned an awful lot during that period, which actually helped me along with lots of the designs and concepts, because I understood what people needed from products. I understood a lot about mechanisms and materials, why things failed, why things perhaps were more durable. I understood about the differences that different products would have in terms of price. If you went out and you bought, for example, a bicycle at £400, you know, what's the difference between that and a bike at £1,500? Apart from the fact it's lighter, the more expensive bike will be much easier to ride, it will last longer, everything about it will work a lot better. And you get to really understand the nitty-gritty about materials and technology, really. So all of these things and learning about people helped me in my journey. Now, all of us walk a different walk in life. We've all got different expectations, different things that we like, different things that we've done, places we've been, things we're interested in. Nobody else here has ever walked that same walk as you. In fact, nobody else in the world has walked that same walk. And you should find that during your time as a student and also afterwards, hopefully you'll be able to pick up on a lot of the things that you've experienced that other people just will not have a clue about. So, tracking back a little bit. So I was working in bicycle shops, and I used to live in lots of flat share situations. So perhaps some of you here might be living with some mates in a nice house somewhere. Well, that was me, living all across London. I worked in Covent Garden, and in North London, in South London, all over the place. And everywhere I went, there was water damage in those properties. So a lot of the time I found that ceilings were damaged because somebody had left the taps running, or there was damp on the wall because the gutter on the outside of the house had fallen, and rainwater would be coming down, and the water would come through the wall, causing damp. In a couple of places we had burst pipes from pipes actually freezing because it wasn't insulated properly. And I thought to myself, this is crazy. We've got, everywhere I'm going, there's water damage. And it started getting me thinking, well, this is a problem that I've come across many, many times. And obviously it hasn't really been dealt with properly. I thought to myself, well, if you look at the things which actually come into a property, you know, you've got water, gas, and electricity being supplied to the property, right? I've never been involved in a gas explosion. I've never been electrocuted. I've never been in a house fire. So why was there water damage all the time? Clearly it hadn't been addressed properly. So I went about, when I was studying design, I went about trying to find a solution to this. And when I started looking into it, I found that the majority of causes were from people leaving taps running. So if you look at the first slide here, you're all aware of the little overflow in a bath, aren't you? Okay, which is what we've got in the UK. In lots of other countries, especially in Scandinavia, they tend to have a wet room bathroom with a big plug UK, we have this little overflow. Now, when we used to have a dribble of water coming through the taps, when we didn't have particularly fast running water supplies and shower pumps, when all of these regulations were put together, that was perfectly adequate. If you left the taps running, that was perfectly adequate to allow the water to drain out the bottom. But over the years, we've got much more effective plumbing, we've got shower pumps, all sorts of things. Everything works much better than it ever did. So we put much more water through the taps these days than we ever used to. However, this little overflow can't cope anymore. And it means that when you leave the taps running and you forgot about it, you turn it on, you get distracted, the water can rise, and then of course it soon overwhelms the overflow, that can go over the side and cause a flood, which is what happened in the places that I'd lived previously. Now, if you'd recognise this problem, can anybody here come up with any solutions about what you could potentially do to this bathtub to prevent it from overflowing if people left the taps running? Any suggestions?
Around the bathtub,
Yep.
have like grooves,
Yep.
and so when the water overflows, you somehow get back into the.
Good thinking. You could, couldn't you? You could have some sort of a moat or something, like some sort of a channel all the way around. If water goes over the edge, you catch it before it goes on the floor. There's a company who do that called an overflowing bath. I think the company is called SOK. But yeah, they do it as a nice thing because you can really sort of float that way on top. It uses a lot of water. Great idea. Anybody else? What else could you do to stop a bath flooding if somebody left the taps running?
An alarm.
You could have an alarm, couldn't you? Yeah, you could do. So you could have something which recognises when water's at a certain height, maybe a couple of little electrodes or something which water touches that, it connects the circuit, and then it sort of alerts you that it's full. There are some companies that produce those. You need to be close enough to your bath to hear it. And a lot of the time when people are distracted, or they fall asleep, even an alarm won't wake them. If you're on the right side of the house, that is. Any other ideas?
Well, it's maybe instead of alarm, what if you have something that will turn the taps off?
That would make sense, wouldn't it? Some sort of a timer, perhaps, so that you could time how fast the bath fills. Yeah, potentially. Something they would mention is this. You could just like a great big overflow on there. But of course, that would be so water wasteful, wouldn't it? I mean, these days when we try to cut energy, turn off your lights, make sure that you don't fill the kettle too much, so you're not boiling too much water. All the time we're trying to save energy, and water, when it's supplied, has been heated and pumped. That's also energy, isn't it? So if we just keep pouring that straight down the drain, it's literally water and energy being poured down the drain. If somebody had invented the bathtub today, and you'd never seen one before, and they came in and said, look, I've invented this fantastic thing. Here it is. It's the bathtub. Oh, great. What's that? Well, you can bathe in it. You can sit back and relax. It's lovely. The kids can have a splash in there. So how does it work? Oh, well, you put the plug in and you fill it up with water. And look, oh, that's very nice. What happens if you leave the taps running? Oh, just keep pouring away. Heated, pumped, beautiful. Just keep pouring it away. Beautiful water. Just keep pouring it away. It wouldn't be allowed, would it? It just would be. But that's what we've all got in our homes. We've all got baths that wouldn't be allowed if they were designed today, because they're so wasteful. And also, of course, the damage caused from a flood can be pretty massive. So I decided to try and solve this as my major project. I thought, well, there's definitely a problem, and my original ideas were quite different from this, but I'll get onto that shortly. Okay. Interestingly enough, here's a little photograph of a hotel I went to recently, just as it's about to overflow. Every time I go to a hotel, I try and flood their baths. Because, of course, I've launched my product, and then I send them a photograph of their bath about to overflow, and they'll say, you need my product, don't you? Oh, really? Not aware of it. So, as Dwayne said, I'm on a program called Dragon's Den, and I'll show you that clip now, and it'll give you a better idea about what I came up with. And what I'm then going to do is take you through the idea from the bare sort of concept and hand you out some prototypes so that you can see how that thing generated from a basic idea right the way through to sort of a multi-award winning product. Can we turn over the lights in here? Is it on this thing? So I've got to check that the sound is up to speed.
Dragons. My name's James Barnum. I have a first-class honours degree in industrial design from London South Bank University. I've invented a product that stops baths overflowing automatically. Today I'm going to ask you for £150,000 for 10% equity of my company. The insurance industry pays out a whopping £250 million per year, clearing up the damage caused from people leaving taps running. But I have a solution. If I can give you a demonstration. This is my NovaFlow product. It's a small mechanical unit that fits underneath the taps in a bath. Because it's mechanical, it's intrinsically safe because there's no electrical supply of batteries. It's easily fitted to both UK and European tap dimensions, and it will take about 20 minutes to fit. If I could give you a typical scenario. There you are at home, running the bath. Next thing you know, your friend phones. So you run downstairs to answer the phone. Now this is a dangerous point. Your bath is filling up with water, but thankfully you have NovaFlow fitted, so the taps stop. As far as it goes, it's such a simple device that to reset this, all you need to do is make sure that there's no more water going through the overflow outlet, and then simply turn off the taps. They're ready to turn back on again. The unit's completely reset. Now I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the market. In year one, we've got a projected turnover of 25,000 units. In year two, 75,000 units, and in year three, 150,000 units. Can I answer any questions?
James, hi, my name's Theo. When did you invent this?
I came up with the idea just over a year ago.
Tell me what protection you now have on this.
We have a patent pending on this one. The second filing's coming up in the next few months.
What competitors have you got?
There are some companies that produce electrical products which are fairly similar in terms of the way that they work. However, because they're electrical, you're mixing electricity and water in a bathroom. They have to be installed by a plumber and an electrician, so they're very costly to install. They cost between 2 to 3 times the cost of NovaFlow, and they're very complex to fit.
So are you suggesting this is the only mechanical one in the world then?
Yes, I'd say so. I genuinely believe so.
Can I have a look at it?
Please, yeah.
With impressive profit margins, patent pending on his invention to prevent copycat products, and no direct competition, James's business sounds promising.
James, have you got any other ideas?
I've got a couple of ideas in the back of my head, but nothing that I'm working on at the moment.
Are you the next Sinclair or Dyson?
Well, I hope so. Wouldn't that be good?
It's looking good for James. Peter Jones thinks he's a talented young inventor.
James, hello, I'm Deborah.
Hello, Deborah.
There's 2 types of installation. There's installation at the start of a build
That's right.
and retrofitting.
That's right.
How does this work in both of those installations?
The form of the product has been taken into consideration because typically there isn't much space behind the head of a bath. You haven't even got space to swing a spanner, so compression fittings are out of the question. So we've gone with the largest push-fit company in the UK, where everything literally pushes together firmly to produce a completely watertight and easy-to-fit solution.
Are you going to get people to know about this?
We have already made some contacts with some housing association people. In the UK, there's over 2 million housing association properties. 1.6 million of these are operated by just 50 housing associations. So when we speak to the right 50 people, we should have access to 1.6 million unit sales.
James has impressed the Dragons with the size of his potential market, and Duncan Valentine is ready to talk numbers. James is asking for £150,000 in return for a 10% stake in NovaFlow, which values his company at £1.5 million.
I'm interested in investing in this, but the problem I have is your price. You're valuing this company at 1.5 million.
That's right.
How negotiable is it?
Well, the valuation that we've given is, I believe, very fair.
And it owns the patent.
London South Bank University owns the patent, and I've got full rights to the patent.
They don't get anything out of it apart from their 10% shareholding.
They've got 10% shareholding, and any sales over £100,000, they will receive 4% of the retail price of those products.
That's actually a very good deal. Not many universities give that sort of deal to students. I don't know what they give here to students. Do you all the dragons are trying to do is to find holes to sort of open it up. Really.
The Dragons have discovered that James's contract with the university will eat into his future profits and those of any investor in his company.
That makes it even harder to come to your valuation of £1.5 million, or 4% or long term, forever. Is there any possibility we can buy the patent from the university?
That may be a possibility, but I would need to call on my colleague Ian Sillett.
Let's do that, and let's have a chat.
James's chance of investment could depend on his university mentor settling Duncan Bannatyne's concerns.
Would the university consider selling the patent?
Yes, the university would consider selling the patent. It would have a price, obviously.
What would that price be, do you know?
At this stage, we would probably think of £2 to £3 million in terms of the...
Oh, right, okay, well, 2 to 4%. James, I'm interested in investing in company, but I really think that for £150,000 I should be looking at getting 50% of your company, not 10%. That's where I am.
All the other Dragons are still in. Will any of them improve on the offer?
I think you've given a great presentation. I think it's really good. I think you're a very smart guy. I'd just like to liven things up a bit by improving on my friend's offer and saying I'll put in 150,000 for 45%, just to get things moving a little bit.
Peter Jones was impressed by James from the start. Will he be drawn into the bidding?
Unfortunately, for me, it would take many years for me to get a good return on our investment, in my opinion. And that, James, is why I'm saying that, unfortunately, I'm out.
Theo Paphitis is ready to show his hand.
I'll be happy to come in. I will give you £150,000 for 40%.
Can James persuade Deborah Meaden to improve what's on offer even further?
I like it. I think you've done really well to get it, but I have to be perfectly honest, I'm not going to better Theo's offer. So I'm afraid I'm out.
I mean, I've come here asking for £150,000 for 10% of my company, and you've started at 50 and you've gone down to 40. But I still feel that 40% is more than I could possibly go for. Are you prepared to renegotiate the 40%?
Richard Farley and Duncan Bannatyne aren't prepared to negotiate and are out. Theo Paphitis has made the best offer, and now he pushes home his advantage.
You're not just getting £150,000 for 40%. You get my time, effort, knowledge, know-how. The growth of this product could be enhanced tremendously just by that. And sometimes life is about timing.
It's decision time for James. Will he be willing to sacrifice 40% of his company to get Theo Paphitis' cash and experience?
Pause it there for a second. Put your hands up if you take that money. 150 grand. Really get the thing moving. Just like that. 150 in literally an hour. Being in there for an hour. 150,000. Nobody? It's quite tempting, isn't it?
I do appreciate the offer, but I'm afraid I'm going to turn it down. So thank you ever so much for your time, and thank you for your advice as well.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, thank you.
James is leaving the den empty-handed. He could have had his investment, but wasn't prepared to sell such a big stake in his company.
Think you made him a good offer?
I do. I hope he doesn't live to regret it.
No, I didn't live to regret it. It was an excellent opportunity to market the product by going on that show. With a small company with very little. Oh, sorry, good question. Go on.
How many people are there afterwards?
Oh, crumbs. Good question. When it was aired in August 2006, well, no, this was. When was it? Yeah, it was aired in August 2006. Literally for 2 weeks, I was just answering phone calls and returning emails. People wanting to invest, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Did he even ask you what it was worth per unit, or what you would make your revenue was?
Yeah, there were. I mean, what you see on the television, they condense. We were in there for about an hour, and they condensed it to 14 minutes for the BBC. So you do see a bit of a snapshot of what went on. And to be perfectly honest, if you watch that program, it is a bit of a game show. You know, lots of what actually happened is lost in the sort of rendition that they've put together. You know, lots of what really happened ended up on the cutting room floor. I think if you actually end up taking investment, you can get involved with the cutting, so that then you can say, oh, no, I really want that bit in there, and that sort of thing. Yeah, we did go into a bit more detail on costs and likely, you know, what we'd be likely to take over the next few years, and our strategy for sort of entering Europe in year 2 and then the States in year 3 and that sort of thing. So that was all covered at the time. I'll go into a little bit more detail shortly. So that's cool. Was there another question? You can put at any time at all, by the way. So I'm happy to sort of answer. But one of the big things about small companies is that we don't have a huge marketing budget. How do you get people to know about a product that's brand new, that's never existed before? If there are other products out there, it's also reasonably easy to say, they did it like this, and you can pretty much follow people's footsteps. With this product, there's nothing out there at all. So it's very much a process of trying stuff and find out what works. And then what doesn't work, you just have to sort of backtrack, realign yourself to where you think you need to be, and make a decision and go. That can be very costly. But we didn't have anybody else that had sort of paved the way for us. So we needed to sort of make decisions, quite costly decisions. You know, we spent £20,000 doing certain things, and we found it was a dead end. And we just had to go, we won't spend any more time doing that, let's just backtrack. We won't make that mistake again, and then you just sort of reorient yourself. And, you know, you have to sort of just keep finding it. You can't sit on the fence when it comes to decisions. You have to sort of make a decision, and you have to stand by it. You make a decision based on the best information at the time, but you have to make a decision. Even if it ends up not being the right decision long term, you have to be agile enough to turn around and recognise that and make amends really. Let me show you I went back 1 year on, and it sort of gives you a little bit of an idea about sort of what happened next. So bear with me a moment.
Huge array of them have come in front of the Dragons, seeking investment for everything from inflatable fruit carriers to a giant tiling glue gun. Industrial design graduate James Barnum came into the den with his invention, the NovaFlow, a device designed to stop baths overflowing.
It's a small mechanical unit that fits underneath the taps in a bath.
He needed £150,000 to develop his product and was offering a 10% stake in return.
We're going to have NovaFlow produced in China, where we can have them made for £5 per unit, and we'll be selling these for £60.
The healthy profit margins he was quoting appealed to the Dragons. The equity he was offering didn't.
For £150,000, I should be looking at getting 50% of the company, not 10%.
I'll put in $150,000 for 45%.
I will give you £150,000 for 40%.
3 rival offers, but all were demanding substantially more equity than James wanted to part with.
I do appreciate the offer, but I'm afraid I'm going to turn it down.
So, 1 year on, does James have any regrets about turning down the Dragons?
It was just fantastic to get up in front of the Dragons, and it was great to have their interest and offers too. But having said that, I'm quite pleased that I did walk out, even empty-handed, because I have since been able to secure the finance that I needed.
James has improved on his offers in the Den, raising £200,000 from a group of investors. Part of that has been spent on refining his prototype to meet stringent UK water regulations, but he's now confident he's ready to start mass producing.
Today I've been machining quite a number of parts. As long as everything goes according to plan, and we don't need to make any more changes, we'll be flicking the switch so that then we can pump out absolutely thousands of these.
He's even more confident about the money he could make if the inquiries he's received translate into firm orders.
In the first year that we'd be selling about 25,000 units, that would equate to £1.5 million of sales and about £500,000 worth of profit in those sales. I feel really that the Dragons missed a trick in getting involved with this. I'm a little bit sad that I haven't been working with them, but I think at the end of the day it's their loss.
Cheeky head. Rub it in. Yeah, when I went into the Den, you see, what doesn't show when you see that film was that we needed 320,000 the first year. The cost of producing an injection moulded plastic product is really quite high. I'll go into the reasons why that is. I'll show you some images shortly, some of the two in the film. So we needed 320,000 just for the first year. Now, I was asking them for 150 grand, which is under half of what I actually needed. And when I went into the Den, I said, look, I need 320,000 for the first year. I'm only allowed to ask you for 150. So, this is how we go with this. And then they started saying, well, I want 50% of your company to come out with under half of what you need just for the first year. I was thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't add up. And then they went down to 45 and then 40%. And it was clearly, far more than we could manage. And I said to them at the time, I came in here and I said to you, I need 350,000. You want me to make a deal that would cripple the company. It just doesn't make any sense. You want me to be a smart businessman on one hand, yet you want me to be an idiot on the other. I can't be both at the same time. There's no way I can accept your deal, so I had to walk away. But it was perfectly all right because it then, you see, led to the point where we did get investments. So there was quite a lot of stages involved in all of that. The product itself, I'll explain and I will go through the development of that. But in terms of costs, because you brought up costs a moment ago, I can give you a bit of an idea about what